welcome to the July 20th meeting of the City of Raleigh's Parks, Recreation, Greenway Advisory Board. I'm glad to see all board members here and to hear some of the things on the agenda. The first thing we have on the agenda is public comment, and so you can come up to the counter. Hopefully you've signed in with, oh, you didn't do a sign-in tonight. Okay. You've got 3 minutes on the timer. We try and be gracious about that, but also try and be respectful of everybody's time. So if anybody would like to come up and speak as part of the public comment, if you'll come up to the podium and share with us your name and the issue about which you are here to comment.
Good evening. My name is James Vandenbosch. I am one of the 3 board members for River Run community. We have 140 homes lining the new proposed park. You know, we love our parks. We love the Greenway Trail, the park by the dam, Forest Ridge Park. We're excited about the prospects of another new park focused on the Greenway Trail and the river. So we know the area very well, and we're here only to ask that we have representation on the CAG. We live there. We have a lot of unique insights to share and to help to make this new park the best it can be. That's all I have.
Right, thank you. And of course, we're not making any decisions on that at this meeting at this time. And so but we do appreciate what you're saying. And I will say that there will be many, many public meetings about this. As you say, it's going to be it's going to be an important and regional park, and we want to be sure that there's lots of opportunity for public input. So,
can I just ask for clarity, which park is being referenced here? Because it's
the News River Park.
That one. Okay, thank you.
So, great. Thank you. I didn't get your last name. Vandenbosch. Got it. All right. Anybody else here for public comment? All right. Well, then we will move on to our agenda. Listed on our agenda is the Raleigh Youth Council, but of course, in July, the students who make up that Raleigh Youth Council are not in session, so we do not hear from them and have them attending our meetings. The next item on our agenda is what we do, and it's a presentation from the Natural Resources Department. And for board members, you already have some information at your seat. I think this is from the Nature Preserves and Program report. So we have 2 things at our tables related to Natural Resources Department. So thank you, Mr. Craig, for introducing this.
Yes, thank you, and good evening to everyone. I am Charles Craig, one of the assistant directors for Raleigh Parks, and I'm very excited about introducing Mr. Brian Smith. Mr. Brian Smith is our superintendent for the Natural Resources group, and he will share some exciting things that we are doing, and I hope you enjoy.
Well, thank you, Charles. I'm not used to getting introduced. That's fancy. Let me pull up the presentation and we will get ourselves started. So as Charles said, my name is Brian Smith. I am Natural Resources Superintendent, and I'm also joined tonight by our Nature Preserves Program Director, Christy Moyer, and our Land Stewardship Program Manager, Sean Goff, and we're here to tell you what we do. One of the things I want to do to make some connections here, and as we go through the overview, is that City of Raleigh was accepted into the Biophilic Cities Network about 2 years ago now on Earth Day. And I think an overarching theme here is, part of being a biophilic city, if you really boil it down, is connecting people to nature. And that's really a lot about what this program is and what the presentation will be about. So we'll tell you about the unit itself, we'll tell you about our educational programming, talk about land stewardship, and then happy to answer any questions that you might have. So let's go to 30,000 feet. What is this unit in summary? It's 4 park sites and 2 program areas. It has a couple 100,000 visitors in a year, serves a tremendous amount of people in programming, and has multiple amenities like trails, facilities that people can rent. And we lean on a large number of volunteers that contribute a tremendous amount of time in service in order for us to do all of the things that we do, part of which is very true natural resource management, including planning and implementation of those plans. This is the team. I mentioned Christy and Sean. They're both here in the room. Under Christy's purview, you've got our nature preserve properties as well as our environmental education program. So Durant and Horseshoe Farm Nature Preserves, Walnut Creek Wetland Park, Annalise Wilkerson Nature Preserve, and then our environmental education programming doesn't have a site of its own. It has a whole school district to serve, and that's what they do. They usually go out to schools, or schools are coming to us. And then Sean is tasked with managing the land that is there. It makes up the parks that we have direct responsibility for, as well as looking at the 10,000 acres that we have and how do we intentionally and responsibly manage those lands and prioritize the things that we would want to do on those lands. So that is the team. These are the sites that we have direct responsibility for. If you haven't been to them, I highly recommend that you visit all of them. I guess I could say I'm biased. Nobody would.
They're beautiful.
Thank you very much. We take a lot of pride in these places and being able to manage a landscape as well as what we would consider the park. We're managing the natural areas associated with it. No presentation about our unit would be complete without at least talking a little bit about the operational pieces. We mentioned, pre-COVID to post-COVID. If you look at this chart here on the left, what we used to see for visitation and what we currently see for visitation are 2 different numbers, which we're very happy with. It was wonderful to be able to provide a service that we knew was valuable to the public during the pandemic, and we're very happy to see that thing that they were using during the pandemic is valuable and that they continue to use it. We also see that spaces like the one that's pictured here at Campbell Lodge at Durant Nature Preserve is a place that people go for their life events. We've got many weddings that are held here. This old scout camp where scouts used to eat their meals in this hall. Beautiful renovation in the last couple of years. And then people using the amenities outside on the trails. These parks, let's say for Durant this time of year, is open 90-plus hours a week. So the operations of gates up, gates down, making sure we're greeting people, health and safety, all of those types of things that goes along with this bigger picture overarching thing that we're going to talk about, and how we educate people, what we're doing programmatically, what we're doing land stewardship-wise. We'll go into the educational pieces now and the types of programs that we do. Are varied. We do the traditional things that you might think about that are in our leisure ledgers, that are on that cycle that's coming out a few times a year, the public programming that we have in there, as well as traditional school programming. I mentioned Cheryl McGlory and her team of recreation instructors who are out going to schools, especially for the schools that can't come to us. That traditional school programming is incredibly important. We also have a lot of schools that come to us for field trips. We offer, as we are this week, doing summer day camps. So Wilkerson this week is doing a teen nature camp, which we're very excited to be able to use that facility to serve the public in that way. We also, I know Ken is in the room for the recreation division. A lot of the camps that are going on in the recreation division, we're doing support programs. So if they want a nature program, often it's our staff that are coming to deliver that. So they do a lot of that in the summer. We also customize things. So, for homeschool groups, and when we get requests, we've got a bunch of very talented and passionate, energetic people that are able to design things that fit whatever need somebody might be coming to us with. It may not be immediate. Sometimes we can. It's capacity based, but we've got a lot of skill to be able to move through and develop things for people as they need them. And to that point, our programmatic design is very intentional and very strategic. Anytime you're dealing with being a public servant in a municipality and in municipal government, resources aren't unlimited, right? So we have to be able to take things with intention, figure out what the public is asking of us, figure out the types of facilities we have, the amenities that we have, and develop programs collaboratively and prioritize the things that need to get delivered on any given season and each one of the sites. So we tailor things accordingly. And we also, one of the things that we're really proud of, and the image that you see is not so much for you to read the descriptions of these programs as it is to give an idea of how it is that we do this. Well, one of the things that we're doing is aligning our programming in many cases to Department of Public Instruction standards, so that when a teacher from Wake County wants to work with us to do a field trip, they can go through our materials and understand exactly what standards they're going to be able to hit when they're pulling together curriculum for their students. So it aligns and allows them to be able to come to us and know that they can deliver it right along with whatever unit they're doing at the time. So we're very proud of that and do that for multiple different grade levels. Also very important to us to have inclusivity as a very intentional part of the design that we're doing. Whether it's the sign language things that we've developed with keywords and illustrations to be able to support that population. We also know that in a lot of the Title I preschools that we go to, English as a second language is a very real thing. So we've translated these programs into Spanish and are also taking into account various learning and cognitive disabilities as we're going through this continuum and delivering programming in this way. These are more of the one-off type of programs that we're doing. We do them repeatedly, but the Neighborhood Ecology Corps is worth mentioning in this space because it's something that we do almost on a year-round basis. It's really dedicated to the school year. It's an environmental literacy program that's an extended kind of 3-year program. Kids come in cohorts, so they'll all come in together. The ones that are registering in any given year may be different ages. They're generally middle schoolers, and then they'll be with us for 3 years. They start with an intensive summer camp in August before the school year starts. It allows them to start bonding with each other. Big part of this program is them having a support structure and being able to lean on each other and network and understand the different points of view that they bring to the table. It's focused on Southeast Raleigh youth and that community and helping these kids build skills and a network. So it's Neighborhood Ecology Corps, and they're certainly learning that content, but we would like to think that it's a lot more than that. And what a program like this, in contrast to what you saw on the previous slide, this is about 150 plus contact hours in a year. It's once a week through the entire school year. Work days when teachers are doing a teacher work day and school is not in session, these kids are often with us. Now to the other piece of this. We do education, we do stewardship, right? These are two of the things that we do. In order to paint on the canvas that we have in terms of natural resources and the land that we have with the city, we do a lot of very intentional land management as well. Some of the images that you see up here indicate things that we do, like bio-blitzes, to really understand what we have on the ground, and some of the management tools that we use. What you see here in the image piece of this is a part of one of our natural resource management plans. So this is Sean's work and developing actual compartments that are labeled, numbered, and understood as in terms of what we're trying to accomplish in those areas. So anytime you're going to manage something, the first thing you got to do is understand what you've got. And that's the first phase in any of this stuff. The second piece then is developing a plan that actually works with trying to keep what you've got the way it is or change it in some intentional way. And that is really what the management plan process is meant to do. And as you start to put actions on the ground, that we'll talk about in the next slide, you can then see what it is that how the ground is responding, and you can evolve and adapt from there. Things that we're doing that aren't necessarily our plans, we're reviewing things that other people are doing in other departments. So they'll come to us for our expertise and review of plans. We've talked to some of you on this board about what we do for sewer lines, that type of thing, and working with Raleigh Water, other departments, and providing expertise there. And we couldn't do any of it without engaging partners and volunteers, as you saw before. So what are we using for actual tools here? The inventory and monitoring we talked about, and there's a picture of a box turtle there at the middle. That's part of a box turtle mapping and tracking project that's citizen science-based. We intend to do much more citizen science in coming years. A lot of what we're doing boils down to managing vegetation. So whether that's trying to encourage certain things to grow or certain things not to grow, if you really want to look at it in the most basic terms, we can burn things, we can cut things with a mower, we can cut things with a chainsaw, but it's really about shaping the landscape in a way that's intentional, and that's the type of thing that we're doing, and it takes a lot of expertise and time to figure out what you've got and then put the plans in place to manage it, and look at the things that you need to protect and preserve, and in some cases, things that you might need to restore or quote-unquote rewild, if you will. tying this all together and where the education and the stewardship come together in this last slide here is a project that we're doing at Durant Nature Preserve in lockstep with stormwater. It's sort of their overall responsibility, but we own the land, are responsible for the land. The city owns it. We are working on the 2 lakes at Durant were impacted years ago in a hurricane. The dams were no longer structurally sound and needed repair. The lower dam's already been fixed. We have 12 acres of water down there. The upper dam realized we're going to have to put equipment in this site in order to do the work. If that's the case, is returning it to open water the best use of that acreage? So if you think about us sort of understanding what's on the ground, doing plans intentionally to figure out what's the best, highest and best use of that site, both for plants and animals that are out there, but to the patrons that are going to come use it and how we can educate those folks. The thing that we're doing here is turning this into a series of wetland cells and a mixture of wetland habitats in that upper area. So this was a very early concept design, and we're now at the stage where we're going through sort of a schematic design where Stormwater has hired a contractor to do the work to take this to the next step. So this is sort of the crude look at it. But one of the things that we knew that we didn't have was a lot of what you call emergent wetland. So we don't have a lot of wetland that people can walk up to that would be what people would commonly refer to as a swamp. We don't have a lot of that in our nature preserves. So this is a way for us to add a type of habitat to a site that we can then interpret that provides higher water quality benefit to the lake downstream and the lake, the wetland system itself, as well as a tremendous interpretive opportunity and programmatic opportunity. It'll also provide, habitat for a different suite of birds that we don't currently have there, and just add a new piece of habitat. So we're looking with a lens of this entire sort of fabric and across the 10,000 acres that we've got when we're doing these types of properties, and that goes back to the sort of know what you have, plan with what you've got, and depending on how Mother Nature responds to it, you adapt and move from there. So back to that biophilic cities definition to close, we're really looking at making those connections and what is it that we have, how is it that we can help people connect to nature in a really intentional and deliberate way and give them experiences that they can take with them, but in the guise of leaving only footprints and taking only memories type of approach. So that is the end of what I've got prepared for you. We did leave you with a copy of our annual report, which gives you much more detail and some case study type stories in there. And then as a takeaway, there's a program that we did that is self-guided that we did during COVID, but also are still using now. So if you've got kids in your life in one way or another, as neighbors, as family, that's something that you can hand to them and that they can do. We often will take that to tabling events, and it's a nice type of thing to be able to get people engaged sort of on their own terms. So I'll leave it there.
Thank you very much, Brian. I'm sure there's some questions and comments from board members. And Lindsay?
Which thing did you say at the end for children?
The piece that is in the, there you go, that one right there, The Wonderful World of Pollinators. That's what I was referring to. It's got some information and some activities as well.
Mine's still learning how to color, but once we get through that, then I'm sure this will be appreciated.
Perfect.
Any other questions or comments? The depth and breadth of the park system in this community is really, it's just amazing. And, we know about the camps and the songs and the activities and the sports activities and the fields and then to look also at the real natural environment from which all of these other things spring. It's important to have them all, and it's really powerful that they're all under one umbrella in Raleigh. So thank you very much for that.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. All right. We next have the park system. Speaking of this system that is so broad and complex, we have an update on the system plan, which is something that is done every 10 years.
Roughly 7 to 10 years.
Okay, and so that is underway now, and we will be getting further updates on this as the year progresses. This will be a pretty regular thing. So, thank you.
Right. Well, good evening, Parks Board. Thanks for being here with us. My name is Lauren Kabrick. I'm a park planner with the Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources Department. Tonight we have just a short presentation and progress report for you all regarding what has been done to date with our park system plan update. With me this evening, I'm excited to introduce Carrie Roynesdell, who is an associate urban planner with Agency Landscape and Planning and part of the consulting team that's working on this project. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Carrie.
Thanks, Lauren, for the introduction. Hi, everyone. Nice to be with you all tonight and share where we're at with the system plan update. So as far as agenda, we're just going to give a brief introduction of our larger team and then get everyone up to date on schedule. We're going to spend the majority of the time giving you all an update on the progress we've been making over the past couple months, focusing very much on community engagement and the strategy that we've been crafting. And then we'll spend the last couple minutes on next steps, where we're headed in the next couple months. And so this is our larger team. We are Agency Landscape and Planning, the prime leading the project and the planning. We're joined by our McAdams team, who we're collaborating with very closely on community engagement. We're also joined by Barry Dunn, who's working on the user fee policy and an expert in recreation programming and operations. And we're also joined by Tool Design, who's advising us on connectivity and mobility. And so as far as project schedule, I won't get into the details for time's sake, but we're about a quarter of the way through a 13-month process, kind of really focused on those 4 tasks there, just starting public and stakeholder engagement and the recreation program plan, and then really in the thick of equity in the park system and that user fee policy. In terms of who we've been meeting with throughout this whole process, there are many groups. So yesterday we had our first workshop with department leadership, which was great. And today we're doing our first project share with you all. Looking forward to public engagement. Later this summer, we're finalizing that draft engagement strategy, and then we'll be doing a pop-up and leading up to our first public workshop happening in September. And so this presentation is broken out into 3 chapters. We want to give you all an overview, highlights from the listening sessions that happened with staff during the month of June, give an overview of analysis to date that we've been doing as a team, and then spend the majority of the time focused on community engagement and how we've been crafting that approach. So the listening sessions were a really awesome opportunity to hear from staff across the park system. We had really great turnout. We had 4 sessions across the month of June every week at lunchtime. And we heard so much from staff. We have way more in-depth summaries that we could go into, but this is kind of just a brief highlight. We heard in recreation programming what's working well, how Raleigh has really resilient and adaptive staff, how there's aspirations for better service models and attracting new park users. In park system history, we heard about stories that we would love to tell of the Raleigh Park System history, oral histories of retired staff, or indigenous histories of the park system, highlighting historic Black newspapers and how that plays into the system history. On level of service, we heard about needs of today, keeping up with national trends, where there are gaps in the system. And then on community engagement, we heard a lot about who we need to be reaching, what does success look like, and then had some conversations about places and events that we should be at throughout the planning process. And so moving forward from those listening sessions, we've been collaborating with historic resources staff on that park system history research. We're also continuing to revise and build our community engagement goals, methods, contacts for outreach, and then working to revise the approach to level of service models. And so we've been trying to understand the existing park types framework for Raleigh parks, and we've been having a lot of close conversations with the core team around whether this framework does not or does align with our goals for the future. And we will have an update later on, but this will be evolving with the system plan update, so stay tuned on that. And we also want to emphasize that we are not working in a vacuum. We've been learning and informing our work as we go along the way. So we've been looking at all of these plans that have happened over the past 10 years, pulling in themes and looking at the recommendations from all of them and seeing how they inform the system plan update work. With the cost of service analysis, we're about halfway through the project schedule. We've completed cost of service models to analyze revenue and expense. We've established cost recovery baselines for fiscal years 2018 to 2023, and we have ongoing work on service delivery, philosophy, pricing policy. And a trend, we're observing that the fiscal environment is trending toward those pre-pandemic levels.
Can you explain what you mean by that last sentence? I have a lot of questions, but I don't understand what that meant at all.
Yeah, so on that last topic, we can see that basically before the pandemic, things were at a certain point, and then there was a dip because of the pandemic. We see that across the country. That's just kind of the result of what happened there. And so as we are coming out of the pandemic, we see things trending to a more normal rate there.
Right. So even though, say, passive use of our parks increased, people's involvement in programs and revenue streams decreased. Okay. I just didn't quite.
Yep. Great question. And so for community engagement, we're really working with a three-pronged approach. We want to amplify awareness as a first step, so get people aware of the plan. How can they share feedback? Where are the different events that are happening where they can provide their input on the plan? We want to create a vision with community members, so when we get them out to a public meeting, meet them at a pop-up that we're at, that we're really creating a vision together, asking the right questions, and following up. We want to build coalitions with community members, so not just doing engagement, getting that feedback, and leaving. We really want to be fostering a long-term relationship with community members so that it's not just about engagement for this plan, but also building that trust so that people come back and are wanting to engage for future planning efforts too. And so in terms of goals, we have a huge priority to reach underserved groups. We'll get far more into more detail in the next slides about that. We want to promote an inclusive and accessible process for engagement, and through that provide opportunities for open dialogue, mutual learning, education about the park system. We want to keep it fun, so we love public engagement. We try to have fun activities and stations and just ways to inform the public and get people excited about the park system while also learning. We want to co-create a vision for an equitable park system alongside community members, so asking them what that means to them and not just defining that without community input. And then we want to build a long-term stewardship as well. And so as far as engagement methods, this is kind of just a high-level overview of all of the methods that we'll be employing throughout the engagement process. We go into way more detail with all of these in our engagement strategy and how we're planning for each of these and all the logistics that go into them. And as far as who we want to reach, we really want to reach a broad cross-section of users of the park system with varying degrees of awareness. And so we've started to identify specific groups kind of within this broader cross-section. And as you can see, a lot of those groups in the kind of lower half of the cross-section, those are where we really want to focus our efforts on outreach and how we can engage with these groups so that we can reach that goal of meeting and engaging with underserved communities. And so who can help us with that outreach to those specific groups? So there are many city boards and commissions who, some of which we are regularly engaged with directly, like you all. And then there's other groups and other city departments that can provide resources for us for outreach, connect us to someone who can connect us to someone else, and then we can get in touch with those people. And we've started to think about how we can engage specific groups. So local institutions and resources might have certain methods of engagement that work really well. We've started to think about certain groups there, certain organizations that we might want to engage. Another example would be community organizations and nonprofits. What methods would be good there? Plan ambassadors may play a really key role with connecting with some of these groups, or a focused conversation might be a better method than another. And so how do we strive for success? We want to embrace flexibility. We've learned that engagement strategies shouldn't be set in stone. They really should evolve and change, and we should be flexible with how the community is responding and how the different groups we're engaging with overall are responding. We want to set expectations up front with the community members. So what questions are we asking? How is that feedback getting processed? When are we coming back? So just be very upfront with that whole process. We want to be responsive and accountable to feedback and really strive for continuous engagement. So as I said before, not going, taking feedback, but coming back, really striving to create trust and build relationships. And then we always, we want to focus on, those important metrics. Those data outcomes are very useful, but quantitative data only tells one side of the story, and we think that qualitative data also is very important, and we really want to emphasize that part of success as well. And then the last part is closing the loop. So in terms of engagement, we engage, we get feedback, we process that, and then take that back to you all, for instance, and then we go back to the community with our analysis, and then we come back. And so it's kind of a continuous loop of you're just continuing the conversation. And we've started to be thinking about our first public workshop that we're planning for in September. So in terms of what we'll be seeking feedback on there, we think it's really important off the bat to identify barriers and needs of the community. We also just had that recent community survey that came out, and so we'll be reflecting on the results from that survey and then seeing how it aligns with what we'll be hearing from the public. We also want to understand how community members feel about equity in the park system, and we want to be visioning the updated system plan goals. So we want to emphasize that this is an update. It's not an entirely new plan. And so how do we work with those existing goals we had, but then also update them so that they're relevant with where we are at 10 years later? And there's multiple ways we'll be seeking feedback, whether it's having people gathered around a game board and having them play a game with gumballs, answering, what are your plan priorities? What do you want to see? Or gathered around a map. There's multiple ways of doing this. At the workshop, we love to do different stations as opposed to something that's like a town hall. Make it really interactive and fun and learning for everyone. And so as far as the proposed format, we want it to be in person at 2 locations at different areas in Raleigh, and in the next public workshop, we'll be in 2 more locations, so kind of staggering where we are so that we get a good coverage. We want to have, we'll probably have a mapping activity and a couple boards that will be very interactive. And then for the people that can't make it in person, we'll also have that Engage Raleigh portal. So a virtual message board, mini surveys, and things where people can engage offline who can't make it in person, but will be asking the same kind of questions. And then we'll also have the great resources that Raleigh provides, such as youth drop-in services and translation services as well. And so outreach and communication, we're gearing up the website and our engagement platform on public input. We'll also be doing social media announcements and email outreach, including the weekly digital newsletter to get folks aware of the public workshops so that people can come. And then we'll also be doing some print and in-person outreach as well. So signs, posters at park sites and along greenways, both in English and Spanish, also at different public and public accommodation facilities, so libraries, faith-based facilities, outreach to registered neighborhoods, and then also at the tabling events we'll be at. If we're at a pop-up, we'll have a flyer and say, hey, you should come to the public workshop that's happening like next month. And then, so as far as anticipated outcomes for this first workshop, we really want to build upon what exists. So the last system plan update sets a really great foundation for us. So as I said before, we're not starting fresh. We want to build upon what's there and really reaffirm the goals and aspirations of the city. We also want to understand how community members feel about equity in the park system. And we want to identify barriers right off the bat. And that's going to help us as we continue to vision and look at these updated system plan goals. So as far as next steps, we're at our first project share here, and we'll be coming back in October. There'll be another smaller staff update happening somewhere in between there. And then the major thing that we're focused on right now is engagement. So finalizing that draft engagement plan by end of July, launching a website, and then getting our first pop-up going and preparing for that first public workshop in September.
All right. Are you ready for questions?
Oh, well, basically, yeah. If you have more questions after this, you can talk to Lauren and TJ. They know everything. So, yeah, we can do questions.
Great. Well, board members, do you have questions? Chris?
Oh, yeah, I was just going to ask, so for the workshop, one of the goals is to identify barriers. Do you guys have a system, like kind of a backup plan to try to find out if there's people that maybe had barriers that prevented them from participating?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's definitely always, that's what we want to learn, because there are various reasons why people don't participate, and it can mean many different things. Some people don't have time, or there's transportation barriers as well. And so that's something that we'll learn right off the bat in whatever activity we plan. We'll be having those conversations and trying to understand where those barriers are and how we can remove them with the new plan.
Thank you.
Other questions? Lindsay?
A couple, actually. You mentioned barriers like transportation barriers. So are you integrating any of these events to be more inclusive in terms of incorporating like hybrid engagement?
Yeah, so do you mean like online? And
Yeah,
in
I'm
person?
sorry. I mean on both online, even if it's just like a view only kind of thing,
Yeah.
and in person is what I mean.
Yeah, so we will, for this first one, we, since there won't be like an actual presentation, we'll just have kind of the same activities and questions happening online that people can fill out on the engagement platform. We do have a virtual public workshop planned kind of later down, later in the process, and that'll be fully virtual on Zoom, usually a short presentation followed by some activities. So we try to make it a mix so that there are hybrid ways of having people participate.
That's good. And so my second item, I guess, was I'm involved with my CAC and my precinct. So I would like to, if there's either hard copy or links available, I would be happy and like to distribute them and help promote these for you.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah, definitely get in touch with us for that, because we use all the help we can get to kind of get the word out.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few listservs and groups,
Yeah.
and so I could share them and just help amplify.
That's awesome. Thank you.
So who do I just...
Definitely, yeah, Lauren. So
Lauren,
go.
all right.
Or really, Giovanna will
we'll send the information out through Giovanna.
Okay.
And likely it'll all go through Lauren and TJ, but that, so we can bring you all and funnel them towards them. But
Great,
yeah,
okay.
we want to leverage, give you hard copies, collect your distribution lists, book club, dinner club, whatever it may be. We'll come meet at wherever the locations are convenient.
I haven't finished a book in a while with a toddler, but when I do
Your
get back to that,
associated
I'll bring
club.
it to the book
Yep.
club too. Thank you.
Other questions? I have a couple. So what's your planned engagement with this board?
Oh, so we,
I mean, is it presenting to us or engaging with us?
well,
I mean, I don't mean that in a hostile or critical
Yeah.
way, but if this is checking that box, it might not be engagement.
yeah.
Isn't it using us as like ambassadors and emissaries for the message? That's what I'm
Yeah,
hearing.
so every workshop, we're going to have you, now choose your role. Do you want to be at a table? Do you want to just sign someone in because you don't feel comfortable? What we talked about is the value of board members walking around and listening,
Yeah.
sharing that information, and then bringing it back to staff. Because, and you all saying, here's what we're hearing, here's what we're not hearing. So each of the workshops throughout, I know you have lots of public engagement with the bond projects, but this is one we were going to ask to assign you to another role for each, if that's okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, that's engagement. Hearing a presentation is not
Oh,
engagement.
absolutely.
That's,
Yeah.
I just
Yep.
was wondering how it was that we were going to be engaged.
The other, Madam Chair, would be is when it gets to draft, this is another thing the Parks Committee, unless you want the full board to see it, they could go into the deep dive on the goals and so forth, so.
And then taking it at a really high level, I'm John Q. Public on the street, and you're asking me for input on a park system plan. I hate to tell you, but that you've just spoken Greek to 90%,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
99% of the people at this table. I mean, so understanding what you're asking is, I mean, I'm hearing you say you want engagement, but and I understand the fee study, and that's really easy and clear, but I mean, yesterday I went to the Apple store, and this morning I got a survey from Apple asking me about the person I interacted with and were they helpful, and, could I give them 5 stars? And I did that. It was pretty meaningless feedback.
Yeah.
So I just, the question is, how do you make it meaningful? And
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah. No, so I would say we do a lot of public engagement, and we wouldn't ever go to someone and say like that explicitly, like, what's your thoughts on the system plan update? So we would go in with questions. I think at this stage we could go in with a question like, get at feelings in parks. So what park makes you happiest? Where do you feel uncomfortable? Like ask questions that lead you where, that are going to give you the answers you want, but that are very easy for people to understand.
Yeah.
So you really want to meet people where they are, have that language that's easy for everyone to understand. So
Yeah, because I think asking for the update
Yeah.
language, it would be
Definitely.
a barrier right away.
Yeah.
For many people. So, all right, well, thank you for answering that. And I'm sure we'll see you again in a couple of weeks, and we'll see Lauren and DJ on this. Any other questions from board members? Okay. All right. Next is, thank you very much for being here.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
next is the Kyle Drive Park Situation Assessment, which we got the backup documents, and we have Emma Lyles here to present. And so there's a lot of information behind both of these projects.
Good evening, Parks Board. My name is Emma Lyles. I'm here tonight to talk to you about Kyle Drive Park and Neuse River Park situation assessments. Here's the agenda I'll be covering. We're going to start with some introductions to each of these projects, and then we'll have an overview of what exactly is a situation assessment and what exactly is a community advisory group, or as I'm going to call them in this presentation, CAGs. So then I'll share preliminary results from each of the situation assessments for the 2 parks and go over what staff has done so far for outreach for the CAGs and what the selection process will be, and then finally we'll end on some next steps. So this is just a quick map to start us off, highlighting the location of each park in our system. As you can see, both projects are up in Council District B in the northeast. Kyle Drive is about 27 acres located at 4700 Kyle Drive near the intersection of Lewisburg Road and Valley Stream Drive. This is the more southern star that you're going to see on this map. Neuse River Park is primarily going to consist of about an 84-acre city-owned site formerly known as the Leonard Tract. This site is at 12028 Falls of Neuse Road, northeast of I-540 and east of Capitol Boulevard. This parcel is bisected by Falls of Neuse Road, creating 2 separate areas, like a northern and a southern section, each approximately 40 acres. Kyle Drive is going to be anticipated to be a neighborhood park, which will primarily cater to the needs of the nearby community. Amenities will be tailored to serve that local population. Neuse River Park is positioned to serve a large area of northeast Raleigh, and due to its unique natural features, location on the Neuse River near Falls Dam and Falls Lake State Recreation Area, it's positioned as the northernmost trailhead of the Neuse River Greenway Trail and the Neuse River Blueway Paddling Trail, and as a destination along the Mountains to Sea Trail, it has the potential to become a signature regional destination within the City of Raleigh Park System. Both of these projects are part of the 2022 Parks Bond, which has included funding for community engagement, master plan, development, design, and construction. Neuse River Park has about $11.5 million, Kyle Drive has $9 million, and this chart shows the proposed project timeline, including this first phase we are in right now, the situation assessment. Next we'll be doing master planning, moving to schematic design by summer 2024, design and permitting by the beginning of 2025, and then bidding and construction by summer 2026, with the goal to be completed in 2028. I've highlighted on this timeline when we'll be bringing items to Parks Board for you to take action on, but we are also happy to provide updates as we move forward into design, permitting, and bidding and construction. So I'd like to take a minute to talk about the phase we are in right now. I like to think of this as the pre-planning phase, the work we do up front before we begin the actual master plan process itself. We've put together a situation assessment, which is a planning document that includes an analysis of the local context around a project. They are used as an opportunity to identify key stakeholders and any issues or opportunities that are important to the community that will be affected by the planning process. Situation assessments can be an opportunity to study the historical and cultural context of a particular project or community and start to collect all relevant planning work that has already been accomplished. This includes everything from natural resource and cultural resource inventories collected in pre-development assessment plans to small area plans conducted by the planning department.
And you can take a breath.
Thank you.
We allow that.
So situation assessments are also where we start to document plans and goals for community engagement during the process, pulling from our citywide public participation playbook, as well as our Parks Department-specific public participation policy for park planning. Sorry. P5 is what we call it, so I don't have to say all that usually. In the situation assessment, we go into detail about the level of participation that defines the public's role and the public participation goal that will drive the engagement process. Both of these projects are going to be using the collaborate level of participation. This emphasizes the partnership between the community members and the City of Raleigh, wherein a level of decision-making control is delegated to the community involved. The collaborate level of participation defines the city's promise to the public as we will look to the community for advice and innovation in formulating solutions and will incorporate the advice and recommendations into the decisions to the maximum extent possible. The collaborate level of participation recommends utilization of a CAG, a group that works in partnership with city staff and our professional consultants to ensure that the park design and elements meet the specific needs and preferences of the community it will serve. So a CAG is a membership-specific committee that provides oversight of the project planning process and ensures that decisions include a broad representation of the community and stakeholders impacted by the project. Criteria for selection to the CAG will include a willingness to commit to the time to attend meetings, an interest in the park and its uses, and an embodiment of diverse demographics and lived experiences. The key responsibilities of the CAG members are to deliberate in good faith, balance interests, and collaborate in the development of a consensus proposed plan, represent the interests of their community, and help facilitate information sharing with the community. So now I'm going to switch gears a little bit and talk more about those preliminary results of the work we've done so far with our situation assessments for each project. I'm going to start with Neuse River Park. So earlier, I said the master plan will be primarily focusing on the 84-acre site that the city owns, but you can see here on this slide that we're actually going to be considering a total of 112 acres. This includes the 9-acre site with the existing canoe launch that you can see in this picture in the top right, as well as the Neuse River itself, the bottom right picture. And then you can see the landscape of the Neuse River Park property is mostly forested, as seen in the other pictures of the slide, and there are a few creeks that run through the site as well. So I wanted to take a second real quick to provide a map explaining this project boundary so we can really kind of wrap our heads around it. So you can see in this dotted hatch is that 80-acre site. You can see the 40 acres to the north of Falls of Neuse Road and 40 acres to the south. And then in the striped hatch is that existing canoe launch site. So that site is leased to the city of Raleigh from the United States Army Corps of Engineers, or as I'm going to call them, USACE. So today, this is already a popular destination for canoeing, kayaking, fishing, or just splashing around in the water. The site is also one of the most heavily trafficked trailheads of the Neuse River Greenway Trail. So while we want to be holistic in the design for this park and include this land that we are already leasing, the master plan for the park will prioritize a design for the city-owned site that remains viable in the contingency that the lease is terminated or not renewed at some point in the future. So planning, design, and development of the northern section of the property should respond directly to the interface with its boundary conditions, the USACE-owned property to the north, Falls of Neuse Road to the south, Old Falls of Neuse Road to the west, and the Neuse River itself to the east. Specifically, the master plan will consider appropriate opportunities for vehicular and bicycle and pedestrian entrances along the site's frontage with Old Falls of Neuse and Falls of Neuse Road. We'll look for opportunities to provide for synergistic natural resource management, river access, and recreational use with the USACE-owned property, and the relationship between the park, trail, and the water along the Neuse River. Planning, design, and development of the southern section of the property will also respond to its interface with its boundary conditions. Specifically, it's recommended that the master plan include design considerations that are sensitive and responsive to the single-family properties and neighborhoods to the south of the park, while also providing an appropriate level of connectivity with the northern section and access to the Neuse River. It should also be noted that the natural resource inventory included in the pre-development assessment plan indicates that the southern section of the property, in comparison with the northern section at least, includes a greater biological diversity and more mature tree canopy. Additionally, 2 small remnant areas of city-owned land, approximately 3.5 and 2 acres, respectively, are separated from the main bulk of the city-owned land by Old Falls of Neuse Road and Wide River Drive. And so these areas will be evaluated for potential alternative uses if they do not end up being incorporated into the park itself. We would be remiss in this planning process if we did not bring up the previously adopted Neuse River Blueway Plan. This plan was a comprehensive effort to improve public access to and raise awareness of the Neuse River as a valuable natural resource and recreational asset. The plan provides a long-term vision for the creation of a cohesive paddling trail that will connect over 2,000 acres of parks, greenway, and open space along the 25 miles of the Neuse River that flow through the city of Raleigh and Wake County. The Blueway Plan specifically does designate different access points as either primary or secondary access points. Primary access points, established at these key nodes along the river, are planned to be developed to accommodate heavy use and will incorporate features such as restroom access, expanded parking, and ADA accessible launch designs where feasible. The existing canoe launch at Falls Dam is intended to be developed as a primary access point as part of this plan, and historically is one of the most popular places to begin a paddling trip along the Neuse River. As we go into the master plan process, documents like the Blueway Plan give us some of those initial guidance on how the site fits in and can be designed to benefit the entire park system. So I wanted to share an aerial image of the site from 2002. This is before the city acquired it in 2010. Most of the site, as you can see, was used as pasture land. Northern portion of the site also included a homestead site, including at least 2 residences as well as several other structures. On site today, the buildings have been demolished, but there still remain some plant species and other remaining infrastructure, such as fences, dilapidated fence posts, that sort of thing. There's also lots of old roadbeds and driveways that can be found traversing the site. Most are concentrated near that central portion of the property where the residences and buildings were located. The southern section of the site seems to have experienced less development and offers those natural resource habitats with more integrity than found in the northern section. The construction of Falls Neuse Road began in 2010, and that's what then bisected that property into the northern and southern portions that I have been speaking of. This image shows the site today. It is now heavily wooded, with the exception of that power utility easement in the southeast corner. This map also shows the Neuse River Greenway Trail, which begins at Neuse River Park and is already a considerably popular destination in the city of Raleigh. Integration of the Neuse River Greenway Trail will be a key focus of the master planning process for Neuse River Park. The Neuse River Greenway is also part of the Mountains to Sea Trail, and this trailhead is actually the beginning of a specifically defined segment of the Mountains to Sea Trail called the Neuse River Greenway in the Wetlands. Just about every weekend, if the weather is nice, this parking lot is overflowing with
Can you
vehicles.
point to where the parking lot is on this map?
Yeah. It's up here. You can see that kind of driveway coming in. Right here. Boop, 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 boop. So that's the driveway and the parking lot in yellow.
Oh. So it's on the Coors property?
Yes, it is.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you.
So the situation assessments also include a demographic analysis. This helps determine the best methods for engaging residents within the project outreach area and identifying any additional resources that may be required. By determining the diversity of a community, staff can then create participation methods that can engage different stakeholders productively and create a more inclusive engagement environment. So this is the 10-minute walk service area, and this slide is the 5-minute drive service area. These demographic analysis help to give us some insight into the makeup of the community that lives immediately around the park. For the Neuse River Park, we know that people are going to continue to come from far and wide to visit the site, so we would recommend that the CAG is reflective of the diverse groups that will be using the park, balancing representation from the surrounding neighborhoods with representation from across Raleigh. So now I'm going to transition a little bit and talk about Kyle Drive. So Kyle Drive was acquired in 2008. The most dominant feature on the site is the wetland, located on the eastern portion of the property. The site includes a diversity of plant communities. The habitat types on the site include streams, riparian areas, wetlands, dry and mesic forests, and also herbaceous easement areas, which are artificially maintained to control woody vegetation, so they provide open grassland areas on the site. This map highlights that wetland in green, so about 8 acres of the site are wetland, and those 8 acres are actually part of a larger 57-acre wetland that continues primarily to the east of the site. There's also a perennial stream channel which flows from the western boundary of the site into the wetland on the eastern portion.
Sorry, who owns the rest of the wetland that's not in the park?
I think since it's 50-odd acres, several different people along it.
Some of it's part of the subdivision that goes down, and then other just across the creek near Levin Lane looks like it's undeveloped, but it would be privately owned.
That wetland is along the Beaver Dam Greenway corridor, though. So I will say that even though some of it is going to be privately owned, we probably have some easements already along that corridor. But as I was saying, though, about the Beaver Dam Greenway corridor, this is designated in the Capital Area Greenway Master Plan, and this corridor does include a proposed trail. This would eventually connect Kyle Drive to Buffalo Road Athletic Park and the Neuse River Greenway to the east, Marsh Creek Park to the south, and Spring Forest Park to the north.
How many miles from Kyle Drive along this proposed greenway to the Neuse River Trail?
I am not sure off the top of my head, but I can definitely find out for you.
Sure.
It is recommended that the master plan consider greenway trail construction on the site in the form of boardwalks or other elevated infrastructure just to minimize impacts to the wetland. Here again are those same demographic analyses that we did for News River. 10-minute walk is here. So for more neighborhood-oriented park like Kyle Drive, we do typically tailor our outreach methods and the makeup of our CAG to be reflective of the demographics of the immediate neighbors, who are really our prime target audience in this case. And here's that demographics for the 5-minute drive. So all of this data is in the situation assessment documents, and they can really help inform the board's process moving forward for the selection of the CAG.
Sorry, I had a quick question. Sorry to be a nitpicker. Why are the ages different on some of those breakdowns? Why were some of them 20 and under and 55 and over, and some of them started at 15?
Just looking at this here kind of shows the age breakdown. So you can see the dashed line is the city average. So you can see just under here, it's the 15 and up that have those bars that are higher than city average. But here it's less than 20 because you can see that age bracket right there. You know, I got too thin of a line to show you. Hold on. So yeah, right here, that from here down is above the city average on this chart. So for next steps, for the selection process in particular. So let's see, where was I? I'm sorry. Okay. So right now we're at the top of this table, presenting the draft situation assessment to the board, to y'all. Application periods for each of the CAGs will close at the end of this month. We tentatively hope to have a preliminary meeting in August with the Parks Committee, and then definitely in September we will be meeting with the Parks Committee, and that is when they will finalize their recommendation of the CAG rosters for both projects, and that will be included in the final situation assessment that will be coming back to the September Parks Board for approval action. So I do want to talk a little bit about what staff has done so far to promote for the CAG for parks. What's up,
And
Beverly?
you may be going to answer my question, so I'll let you wait till, but do you have a number so far of applications for both projects? Since it's an open and how?
Yeah, so last I looked, Kyle Drive I think was around 25, and News River was, gosh, last I looked it was like close to 80. Maybe it had gotten past 80, yeah.
For the
These are
CAG?
applications for development.
No, for the CAG, for the
CAG.
Yes. So what we've done so far to promote the CAG for the Neuse River Park, we had site visits and initial stakeholder conversations. We revealed a number of specific groups that should be considered and engaged with directly during the planning process. These groups include direct neighbors and HOAs and apartments, as well as outdoor recreation special interest groups and users of the Neuse River Greenway and Blueway. We had meetings with the Office of Community Engagement. They helped us identify Latino and immigrant groups to reach out to try to, based on the use of the site right now by the Spanish-speaking fishers. Staff also identified nearby churches, citizen advisory councils, Wake County Public Libraries, and Wake County Public Schools. These stakeholders were initially identified through GIS analysis, primarily focusing on our Raleigh Neighborhood Registry. And then furthermore, a significant amount of the additional stakeholders and groups we've reached out to were identified in the CAG questionnaire. In the questionnaire, participants are invited to suggest other key individuals or organizations to be included in the engagement process. So further extends the breadth of identified stakeholders. And we also have been very intentional about engaging populations outside of that 5-minute drive area to reflect the regional nature of the park. So this has included methods to reach younger populations, people of color, and lower income households.
Excuse me, I have one more question, and maybe somebody else here can answer it. I see the list of neighborhoods and
Oh, sorry, I'll go back.
HOAs and so forth. Can that list be expanded?
Oh yeah, this is just what we've done so far for
Okay.
outreach. This is by no means this is all we're doing.
For both parks?
Yeah. So this next
Okay.
slide has the same sort of chart.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So for Kyle Drive, since it's going to be a neighborhood park, we really tailored our outreach to that nearby community. So you can see the stakeholder list is primarily those HOAs and apartments. We've conducted a lot of similar communication strategies for Kyle Drive Park, with the main difference being the stakeholders we're reaching out to and the placement of our print materials being at the nearby parks and county facilities. So, as for next steps, while Parks Committee is using August to review CAG applications, staff will be working with our selected consultant to develop the engagement plan for the master planning process. We are specifically going to be hammering out a lot of our dates for our public input events and identifying tabling opportunities. So I do have an additional ask of y'all. If you know of any cool events in the next year that you want us to table at to promote these projects, please reach out and let me know. So then after August, we'll be coming back in September for action on the situation assessment and the Parks Committee recommended community advisory groups. And then after that, we'll provide a quick update to City Council as well. Then we're going to be moving straight into master plan process, starting with initial input, moving to design alternatives, and then a concept plan review. We're going to be making sure to go through a couple rounds of preliminary regulatory review. That's going to be especially tricky with Neuse River Park, so we want to make sure we're not planning anything that's not going to get permitted. And I've also noted the different points that we're going to be doing a formal consensus check-in with the CAG to make sure that we're working towards park designs that the community will embrace. We are targeting an April presentation of the master plan to the Parks Board, with y'all taking action in May on whether to recommend to City Council, and then targeting a June City Council. And with that, any questions?
And have the design consultants been selected for both of those master plans?
We are in scope negotiations right now.
Okay.
It's 1.5 miles from, I looked for you, it's from Kyle Drive.
Oh.
It gets to Buffalo Road.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Are these slides in the large document that was listed with the agenda?
No, not yet. They'll be on after the meeting. They'll be on after the meeting.
But a lot
PDFs
of
have-
this information is in
Yes.
that, I would say 80% of this is in the all those
Attachments.
graphs and all that. Were in
100%,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, the problem I had was that it's 50 megabytes and it's too large to email, so
You
I had
mean
to
everyone
do it
doesn't
down.
love a 500-page planning document? What? I did try to, I saw, there is the version with no appendices that is much
I have
smaller.
that also.
Yeah.
That was only 5. I sent that
Yes.
out. Okay.
Yeah.
That was very good.
All right, other questions? Board members, so we will be working towards getting these steps in line so that for you with the Parks Committee meeting in August, et cetera, and working on that.
I would love to have an August meeting, but definitely see you in September.
Yes. All right, very good.
Thank you, guys.
So we have finished the meat of our agenda. And now we've got the approval of the last meeting's minutes, and we don't have those, so we're not going to approve anything. But we do have the director's report, which was attached to the agenda, but I'm sure there are highlights that Ms.
Just a
Bentley
couple.
would like to share.
It's Parks and Recreation Month, so we have our annual report, which was delivered yesterday. You have the department's annual report in front of you, which is, I think, a beautiful document and a great representation of all the work that we're doing in the community. And tomorrow is Parks and Recreation Professionals Day, so make sure that you thank your Parks and Recreation professionals, whether it be Raleigh or
Yes.
any others that you see for the great work that they do. Yes, Madam Chair, I'll point out just a couple of things. Our Youth Conservation Corps is coming to an end. We did have your work plan approved at the last
Yes.
council meeting. Thank you to the vice chair. And the council did get an update on Mine Creek, and we will be continuing to work with that community on some of their continued concerns with the project and hopefully bring it back to the city council with a 60% design that would look at all the things we said, stone, fence, signage, for the council to consider approval. Let's see, some really great art exhibits that are going to be going on. I'd like to highlight the Friends of Overland Village is working with our art staff on the road improvements and the library, so there's going to be a great exhibit associated with that.
The road improvement? Oberlin Road's getting
road improvement.
repaved.
Yes, it says
I'm not
creating
sure I
pub-
call that it will be an
has
improvement.
been working with Friends of Oberlin Village and the nearby community on creating public art along Oberlin Road as a part of the Oberlin Road Improvement Project. I know that there's gates of that was privately done, but I believe we are working as a part of those road improvements to work with Friends of to have some other public art and the libraries, so nearby Oberlin Library, or Cameron Library.
No, Oberlin.
Oberlin Library, sorry, just the opposite. And we have three, I think, really cool exhibits coming to the museum. One is the Green Book Project, which just arrived in June. The next is Pour Me Another. It is curating and interpreting North Carolina's beer, wine, and then spirits. And then the final is Diamond Days, a history of Raleigh baseball. So just a few fun things, and then
And those are all at the City Museum.
City of Raleigh Museum, yes. And we had the honor of hosting members of the Moldova Parliament last month, which was very exciting. Several council members and our city manager joined them to talk about just how our government's structured, and then we took them to Peach Road Cultural Center. And we also did a language barrier activity with them, so that was exciting. And then last week, we hosted 15 fellows from the Mandela Washington Fellowship Program, which is also really exciting.
Nelson Mandela?
Yes, yes. And I believe it is associated with Appalachian State, App State. Yep. And then we have a series of backpack giveaways. I'd like you to note those, so if you want to come by and volunteer as school begins to gear up. We have multiple ones in August. It looks like we have 5 or 6, and they're located all throughout our park system. So please consider joining one to volunteer.
And Giovanna will email us the dates and places.
It's all in the manager's.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Not the director's report.
Gotcha.
Yes.
On page 10.
Okay.
Yeah. Who provides the backpacks? Whose finances the backpacks?
It is a range of different nonprofits. We actually have a listing in here who we partner with. One's KCSSU. It looks like we will be doing one in conjunction with the John Wall Foundation. John Wall, prominent local college and professional athlete, who all, by the way, this will be a public announcement, is going to refinish the basketball court. So the day of the backpack giveaway, we'll have a ribbon cutting as well, and it'll be our emblem and the Wall Foundation emblem on a brand new court, which is really, and they're paying for everything. So
Fantastic.
yes. I don't have the exact donors for each of them, but we can certainly find out for you. But we give away thousands of them of the course.
I'd be interested in knowing who's the organizations in the community that
Absolutely.
are supporting. And this is it's a wonderful initiative.
Yeah, I went to one last year and was awestruck. I was thinking you'd have a few dozen people, and literally hundreds, if not, I think one location over 1,000. So
1,000 kids needed the backpacks.
yes.
Lousy.
Yep.
Yeah.
If we want to volunteer, can we just show up, or do we need to sign up through the volunteer portal?
We will work with you on that means and methods to make sure that it's an easy glide path. Yeah.
Great.
And that's it. Thank you.
Good question. Great information. Thank you. All right. Well, Parks Committee, no report. Fletcher, no report. I'm assuming the Greenways Committee did meet. And flip back to, we met on Monday, July 10th, and we talked about the Crabtree West dedication, which we're still working on figuring out. We did have somebody from the communications marketing. That's what I couldn't hear what you were saying. From the marketing staff, and it looks like that project will be completed in late October, but given that we do have hurricanes and things in Raleigh in September sometimes, so we're kind of looking at a mid to late November date, and looking to coordinate with Oaks and Spokes, the local bicycle, and maybe with the running community as well. So looking maybe at November 18th, 19th, but there'll be more details on that. It was Kelly Branch from marketing who we met with. And then an important piece of information that was shared with us then is that the Neuse River Trail will be closed. I did not note the date. I don't think it's till end of September or early October. But currently, one phase, because of water and sewer work, the Neuse River Trail is closed, but there is a well-mapped detour provided. The second phase goes from Milburnie Bridge up north of Hedingham, and there is not a usable detour that will be able to be provided to the public to be mapped. I'm sure there will be some wily configurations that people use on their own, but there will not be an official detour. So we need to be sure that that is communicated clearly with maps on our social media, et cetera. But that's a ways out, but we do have time to plan for that. So and we also discussed signage, and Ms. Baker informed me that they are looking at some of our suggestions from that meeting and revamping some of that. So we'll learn more. The Greenway Committee is meeting on August 14th for August, even though as a board we don't have a meeting. But Chris, one of our members, is not able to meet on Mondays in the fall, so we may need to look at a different day of the week so that we can do that. So, but that's the report from the Greenway Committee. Sustainability, wildlife, and urban trees.
We met on the 5th of July, and it was just two of us there, so we didn't have a quorum. But we had a very, thank you, Giovanni. So we met on July 5th, and we did not have a quorum. Only Bob and myself were there, and we had a wonderful conversation with staff about turf and synthetic turf, nature green grass turf and synthetic turfs. It was quite the education. It's complicated, and there's pluses and minuses for both, we've learned. So anyway, thank you, Charles, for organizing that. So it was very informative. We will not meet in August.
And this is for Mr. Bentley, will there be a recommendation from staff coming for possible parks where we might use that or something else in the fall?
For turf specifically, like artificial turf?
Since that's been an issue that's been brought to
regarding specifically Broughton?
or other locations where it might be a better choice.
I would say, well, first for Broughton, we're continuing to negotiate with the school on options for improved facilities there all around, including whether turf's an option or natural stays like it is. We don't have any recommendations for artificial turf field. One is it's a really big expense. So I'd be honest, it would have to be a bond project improvement because our penny is just maintenance. So if we go in the direction, that would be new construction. If you wanted recommendations on fields, I could guarantee we could bring them to you in September right away. But,
Okay.
But right now, we're going to remain a natural turf system until we get that opportunity to post it.
Good.
So.
That's all.
We have 80 fields. The city, it was such an informative discussion with but I had no idea that there were 80 turf fields that are maintained. But I didn't know that if you have an artificial turf, that there's so much infrastructure that has to go in.
Drainage.
Yeah. Anyway, we learned a lot.
All right, thank you. And thanks for your filling the rest of that in. Arts Commission and Design Board?
Yeah, I'll try to keep this short, but there are some cool events coming up that the Arts Commission talked about. The Grants Committee said that they're still working on some Arts ARPA recovery programs. One of those that they're looking at allocating some funding to is they entitled it "Envisioning a Second Act for the Colony Movie Theater." So the theater that's at the corner, I think it's close to Millbrook and Six Forks, trying to repurpose that for a lot of the local performing arts organizations that don't have permanent homes, since that used to be a movie theater and it no longer is. The Arts Education and Collections Committee did a site consultation for an Asian Joy mural, and it's actually going to be on a wall by Union Station. So if you guys have walked around Union Station, there's a parking lot. It has a bare, nondescript cement wall that's actually going to be turned into a mural. And they've been doing a really good job at finding city-owned walls that they can turn into murals. So far, not so many private-owned walls. There's no draft design yet, but it's coming soon. There's a project called Tessellate. It's a Seek Raleigh project. It's by an artist named Oliver Lewis. It's going to be at Dix Park by the Flowers Cottage. Yeah, it's already, there's still some work already being done on it, but it's going to be from July 24th to August 28th. And they advise that you go in the late evening, so as late as you can, obviously before the park closes, but it's kind of a lights exhibit, so that's when it's most...
Early evening, I think you mean.
Early evening, but as late in the evening as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sort of
Not in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And then there's a really cool, this is at Art Space, a really cool exhibit by a artist in residence there named Jimena Vergara Sands. She has a art exhibit, and it's kind of, I wouldn't say interactive, but part of it is on July 30th, there's going to be an event called Plant the Moon, where she's actually going to be able to kind of work with integrating her art into the physical landscape where she's going to be doing it. But she's actually kind of reproduced a lot of her original art with stitching. And she basically explained it as kind of, this was a response to a traumatic situation that she went through in her life. She's actually not originally an artist, but she explored using art for an exploration on how to heal physically and emotionally through art, creativity, and communication. So there's actually events, there's one tonight from 6 to 8, but there's another one next week, so July 27th from 6 to 8, and this should all be at Art Space. And then there's an event in a couple days called Embrace the Transition on the 22nd. So 22nd, 27th, and the 30th are the 3 events.
Cool. Wow. Arts Commission has been very busy. City of Raleigh Historic Cemeteries Commission. We get Charles Craig.
Hello once again. I'm Charles Craig, one of the assistant directors for Raleigh Parks, and I stand before you to give the Historic Cemetery Advisory Board report. One of the things I want to touch on very quickly, the board has been very adamant about launching a new campaign, which is around marketing, really highlighting the board. One of the ways that we are trying to market the board is being available to attend different events, attending different events and kind of sharing information about the board and how to get involved. With that being said, we launched a campaign and we started with the Juneteenth event. Thank you, Troy. We was able to be at the Pope House, and we had a great tabling event there as members of the community was coming in and out. We was able to share information about the Historic Cemetery Advisory Board and ways to get involved and become a member. We're excited to say our next event will be at Dorothea Dix Sunflower Field. So we will be there on this Saturday, and we're excited about that. So if you would like to come out, please come on out, take a look at our table, say hello. We'll be there between the hours of 5 p.m. and 8 p.m. Okay, and that will be at Dix Park. Also, our next meeting, many of you are aware, on next Thursday, which is July 27th, we will be at Dorothea Dix Park for the All City Board social event. So if you are there, the board members of the Historic Cemetery Advisory Board will be there. It'll be great to just kind of connect and talk. I'm excited because we are going to try to have a quick meeting if we could. If all the members is able to show and we're able to meet, we are going to try to meet on that Thursday as well. With that being said, I'll take any questions.
Are you fully, do you have a full complement of members now, or do you have openings on that?
I believe we are full, but we may have one vacancy. I can confirm one vacancy. Yep.
I have somebody who I've suggested to it, but they haven't applied yet. So. Lindsay, did you have a question? No. Okay. Any other comments, questions? Thank you. Mr.
Thank you.
Craig. And Dick's Leadership Committee meeting met on June 27th. And, there are, part of, Dick's Park Leadership Committee is of maybe 15 people, but there are so many other community groups. There is the Legacy Committee chaired by Susan Garrity. There's the Community Committee chaired by Ashton Fisher. And there are lots of other entities that are providing input. And so anyway, Ashton shared that the Community Committee had toured the stone houses, which if you haven't been by there, it's privately funded restoration of the stone houses, and there will be public restrooms, which will be very important. And that should be finished by the fall of this year.
Yeah, by the end of the year with more of a public-facing, probably January or February, but the Conservancy hopes to be done by December.
So, and that will be the 100th anniversary, if I'm correct, which is also the 100th anniversary of Washington Elementary, but that has nothing to do with anything. But I do. I know that 1923 was a big year for building in Raleigh, North Carolina. We got a very extensive update on the Rocky Branch enhancements and the various possibilities of the way the creek can be developed and the channel moved. And of course, one of the most important things is being mindful of the landfill that is where the old soccer fields were. And so, and also, I believe the sunflowers are actually on top of the landfill as well. And so anyway, they're looking at all the different adaptive reuse options and money and all of that. So, and part of that is looking at the other projects that are happening around Dick's, which is the state is rebuilding the Pullen Drive Bridge, and we of course have the Western BRT. So all of these things have to be planned for at the same time. So, and let's see if there's anything else I can read my notes. It's always a big. One of the issues is looking at the early deconstruction of some, and this is something of interest to all of us, is there are buildings on the at the park that need to come down because of the site condition or where they're located. And I was pretty vocal about the need to analyze the possibility of moving some of the small houses that are there, because I really feel like they're not in the right position for use, but they might have use as housing in some other location, but we need to know what it costs to move them, what it costs to restore them, and that's not something the city can take on, all of that, but they can do the analysis. So, and that is it from the Dick's Park and Historic Resources Museum Advisory Board.
Yep.
Oh, that's right.
So we didn't have a meeting, we had a party. It was very nice. It was actually Esther Hall's idea. She said it took her 3 years to have it, but it was quite lovely to see people that are interested in historic issues come together and realize somebody you didn't know was interested in that was there, and it was quite lovely. It's at the Borden, Borden at Fletcher Park, Borden House. On the 28th, right? Yeah, it was lovely.
Great. That is super.
An announcement of a new nonprofit called Preservation Raleigh. So a group of prior board members came together and have created a nonprofit to look at the preservation of structures in Raleigh.
That's curious. I stood up and this came off, so hopefully that was a pre-existing condition. I'm Troy Burton. I'm the acting director of resources, and yes, that is correct. Raleigh Preservation, with Esther Hall, has now rotated off the chair of the Historic Resources and Museum Advisory Board. She is now the first president of Raleigh Preservation, and Nick Fountain, who some of you also know, is the vice president of said organization, and it will be specifically focused on historic preservation issues as a private nonprofit here in our capital city.
Thank you, Troy.
Sure.
That is fabulous. I've known Esther a very long time, and she may be tiny, but she is fierce. And so I'm thrilled to know about that new activity. And how it coordinates with what we do in historic resources. And nomination committee, I haven't worked on that. I didn't see that on the agenda, but I am working on that so that wait, do we have, no, that's not, I was thinking of nomination committee for getting new board members. But
It's a work plan item.
That's a work plan item. And I was thinking, gosh, I haven't worked on that yet. But this is the nomination committee for chair and vice chair. All right. So if someone would like to chair it.
No.
She'll help
I got a
explain.
Yeah, I don't remember the process.
I have a mic today.
But while you're doing that, I will take a minute. I really do want, right now, folks apply to through the city on a application, and we don't, as a board, see who is nominated, and then it goes to council. Sometimes they know that somebody's really qualified, but sometimes they're kind of just looking at just what's on that application. So my goal on the work plan item for the nominating committee is for us to have a really healthy pipeline of people interested in this board who will show up to meetings, who will be actively involved, and not just have it be a resume piece. And so just as you work with different people and talk with different people, just encourage them to apply so that we have that healthy pipeline, and then we can, as a board, be able to be more instructive or informative to city council when they're making those decisions. So.
Well, I think in that regard, it would be helpful if we were kind of given a heads up, like, hey, we're looking for a couple people, folks, put the word out, because we're not really given that kind of.
It's on the website.
Yeah, but I mean, we all have busy lives. I have a full-time job, so you want me to go check the website?
I think the idea, though, there, Lindsay, is it's not just on an as-need basis. It's more creating a pipeline. And so I think we should encourage people now, and it may not be that there will be a spot, a vacancy for 3 months or 6 months, but at least we'll have a robust pool of folks who are interested. So yeah, and then You're right. I don't often know when they're filling a vacancy unless I happen to see it on council agenda
Yeah,
or something.
there's a robust dashboard that the city created, so you can touch on any boards and commissions and see demographics, when the next seat's going to expire. And we can send that link and
Right. I've seen that, but what we don't have is
the actual applications. Yes.
and we don't need to have them, but we need to take responsibility for populating
Yes.
that. And
Well,
that's-
my reference was when you create your committee, they have a tool that can help them to say, oh, in 6 months, let's make sure to get that pipeline going.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great. Yeah, thanks. But that's a work plan item. This is a different matter.
Yes, this one is for chair and vice chair nominations. So we need one designee for this. This is a committee of one. And so at this meeting, we'll name the designee. They will accept names for chair and vice chair from today through August 24th. And then a ballot will be I'll create a ballot, and you all will vote at the September 21st meeting. And then the new officers will take their reign at the October 19th meeting. Their reign, yes.
Crown included.
So do we have a designee, someone? And you'll be working with me if you need some assistance or whatnot.
Did you just say you do?
I said yes.
Okay, that's fine. All right. Very good. Well, I hadn't even noticed that on the agenda. Sir Walter Raleigh Awards Jury. They've asked us to, and I think it's the Appearance Commission has asked us to help jury that. They have spent a lot of time designing their certificate. I attended their meeting earlier today, and I left at that point. But they had.
So the jury
What does that mean?
works with different groups within the city to select the winners for the Sir Walter Raleigh Awards.
So it's building, right?
Building, yeah, different
Buildings.
categories.
Yeah.
There's about a dozen categories. They only meet one time.
And that's August 9th. And it's a long lunch.
Long
is
lunch.
what they call
So
it.
you get a lunch.
Aren't there some environmental categories with that?
There are, yes. Yeah, it can be like best green building. We usually submit, we have a wall of them. We submit every year when we have opportunities to. Yep.
So the categories are residential, commercial, rehabilitation, historic preservation, public facilities, public spaces, landscape design, community impact, and educational.
Right. Somebody interested in doing that, Gregory? You ask a question, you get put on the committee.
August 9th. Sounds like a long lunch and a short dinner.
They didn't give a time, but
August
I
9th
think it's
is a
usually like
Wednesday.
11 or so
Yep,
until
I was going to say it's a
probably like 2.
Wednesday.
Yeah. Okay.
Great. All right.
So Greg, he's gonna do it?
He can do it.
Okay, all right, I was gonna, okay.
All right. Chair report. I did attend the Appearance Commission meeting earlier today. Their agenda, as I shared with Giovanna, is not as clear as ours. And so it said legacy project. And so I thought they were talking, they're the ones who did the plan for the Midtown Water Park. And so I wanted to see the update. Instead, it was a update on a people placemaking project that they have funded, which is actually, I want to share it with you since I did sit through it today. If your neighborhood, for instance, wanted to have a block party, they actually have the road closed barricades you can borrow. They have a dozen tables. chairs that you can borrow, activities. There is a website, and I will. This is Tina Govan's project. She was reporting on it, and the website is www.placemakingRaleigh.com. The different neighborhoods have done things like have a porch fest and have people playing in their yard. I'm kind of getting ideas, thinking what my neighborhood might do. And but one of the things that I noticed is I think Tina lives in Oakwood or Mordecai, and most of the activities had been concentrated around downtown. And she has tried to reach out and has done one or two in other parts of the city. But I thought, well, let's give it a little bright sunshine at our meeting and share with you all that this was an opportunity. But there literally is a placemaking shed where she stores these things, and you can reach out and do a block party in your neighborhood or have kids play. And so and I specifically asked, I was mindful of some of our small parks. I realize that for our large parks, we have to charge for a shelter or whatever. But parks, say like Chamberlain, and that are just little pocket park kinds of things, I asked if there were any barriers for people using those parks, if there were fees or things like that. So I thought we should be mindful of ways that we can encourage people to do these neighborhood gatherings and community building activities and make sure that our parks are available to the community and easy to access. So maybe there's a link we want to put on their website or something like that is what I was thinking. So that was interesting. I want to remind everybody about the board social on next Thursday from 4:30 to 6:30 at Dix Park. Is it at the Flowers Cottage or at the chapel? Okay. I have it on my calendar, but without looking.
There's ice cream and popcorn.
Huh?
There's ice cream and popcorn. But I can't make it.
The work plan, thank you to Chris for presenting that to the council and getting it approved and presenting Mine Creek. I think that was really, we were the first of the groups to do that. And I also have been in communication with Mr. Bentley about the Allegheny fence, and I'm hoping he can give us some update. It's still there.
Yeah, the fence is still there, and I got an update which I gave to Madam Chair, which is the owners have, this is their second round of reviews, so that they are intending to remove the fence and pull it into their property, which they have control over. But in order to do that, they need to get a city building permit. So first round, city had comments, they just submitted their second round this week.
Will they be also moving the trees that they have planted?
They have to move everything out of the easement. Yes. Yep.
All right. I can't wait to decorate the fence for them. Since it'll be coming down. Little art for the Art Commission. So that is all of my comments for today. Anything else from any board members?
Just want to plug the lecture that's going to happen on September 14th. Doug Talmy, who is a ecologist and a professor at the University of Delaware, will be doing a talk at Dix All Faiths Chapel. So this was an initiative that who came up with and took it to Janet Cowell, and she said yes. But anyway, if somebody would like to donate money for the speaker's fee, please send it to Dix Conservancy with a notation that it's to help offset the speaker's fee. It's so anyway. He's also going to be speaking in Cary on that Friday night.
And do you want to tell us the topic that he will be speaking?
He will be speaking about oak trees. So having this highly regarded writer and scientist that studies oak trees is going to talk with us about why they're so important. They're the most important tree in the forest because of the habitat they provide for all the kind of insects that feed the birds.
What time of day?
It'll be 7. Yeah, no, I'm not getting up for a 7 o'clock lecture.
All right, well, that sounds, well, we will send that out. And, oh, one thing I forgot on my comments was reminding you, I issued this challenge to you last month at our meeting, and we don't have August meeting, so use that Thursday afternoon or evening to go visit another park in a different part of the city that you don't normally go to see. And so I didn't write it in the right spot on my notes, but I think that's really, really important. And seeing these situation assessments and being good stewards of assessing what the CAGs present, it means that we need to know about the other parks that exist in our city. And so we know we know they're on a map, but we need to know them personally. Did you have a?
Yeah, I have a few things actually. So the first is that if you're not aware, there is a really outstanding exhibition here at City Hall, portraits of 20 Oberlin community members. QR codes linking to their oral histories are displayed on both levels out here. On June 29th, there was a really fantastic reception that I attended, and it was just so inspiring. So my son and I enjoyed that. And for those of you who are veterans on this board with me, our friend Kendall Harris, his portrait is out there. So we came out to support him and celebrate that. It's a really, really great project. So I would encourage you to take some time to take that in. It's a lovely work, and so bravo to Kelly and Stacy and their teams. They've done a great job with that.
I was just going to say that it's downstairs too.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's out there up and down. And then I have a couple questions from the community. I'm aware that there's a Greystone Rec Center has an indoor play space that's for ages 5 to 12. Are there any other indoor play spaces in the city of Raleigh? Question mark.
Not like Greystone. No. We consider all of our indoor spaces play spaces. The reason why we built Greystone is that we did not find it feasible to build a park in that area. So we built a playground indoor. We actually leased a Dollar General. So essentially, we could not find land in that area. So our creative strategy was to build a park inside. So.
Oh, that's cool. Is there potential to explore building any other indoor parks like such?
With the next parks bond, yes. Or we just look at how we reinvent our current spaces. But if you go to a camp right now, the kids think that those spaces and the tools we give them are like an indoor park.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm thinking about even ages 2 to 5 and 5 to 12 having that outlet when it's intensely hot and air quality warnings. Unless you pay to go somewhere, then you don't have an option. So
our community centers are open for free.
What would you do with a 20-month-old there?
I'm sure we could provide you dozens of things to do with a 21-year-old. Just stop by.
Okay. We visited the art on the walls, but you run out of, sure. Things. Okay, so that's been a question that has come to me. And apparently Carrie has some great indoor spaces, but anyways, the third item, someone asked me, what is the potential for, as tennis courts are maintained and renovated or whatever, to make them more dynamic so they can be utilized for both tennis and pickleball?
We currently do that now. We have some locations. Ken, I think probably one of his number one calls is, can we have more pickleball courts? And we're continuing to look at where we can do that, where we don't displace tennis. So it's that fine balance to say, I don't think it's an or, where our solution is to try to find that and we look at geography, where can we have them around the city? But that is something we are continuously looking at. And I would assume with Lauren and TJ's work, we are going to hear that in the park system plan.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's basically like as they are maintained or upgraded or whatever, then they get to be so that they can be multi-purpose?
Some, yes.
I can offer two, if you're okay?
Sure.
One for Lindsay, for your question on toddlers. Stephen was absolutely correct on playgrounds. Several of our sites offer what we call tot time. Right now it is hard, so especially Halifax pops to mind. So they will offer time in the morning at our community centers where exactly what you're talking about, especially moms working in between nap time or dads who are home can actually come into the space. We'll take the gym and leave that available. We'll roll out our gator balls, smaller equipment, things for kids to be in there with their mom or dad to be able to have some activities. It is challenging during summertime. We got about 12,000 campers that we're trying to get through over the summer.
Are any of those ever on weekends for people like me
That's
who work?
actually, they do, because that's one of the things they'll do it during the week. But we can get you a list of sites. We'll have our fall programming coming out here. We'll start that about the middle of August, and I can give you an idea of where we do offer some of those activities.
That would be great.
Yeah.
I do have people asking me these things. And actually, you coming up here reminds me that I have one more thing that,
If I can answer you on your pickleball question.
sure.
Stephen, again, is also correct. One of the things I want to make sure that people don't know, we did a survey several years ago on a concept called blended lines. A little bit of the humor that comes out of that with my peers is usually when you create blended lines trying to make everybody happy, you make nobody happy. Because the tennis people don't know when they get to play tennis, and the pickleball people don't know when they get to play pickleball. Ultimately, at North Hills, that's why we created that. We also had $25,000 to be able to make that happen from a private donor. But dedicated courts is really what we strive to do. Now, we do have some blended lines where we do it. Tarboro Road was one. There was a place-
Fletcher.
Fletcher is one that we do it. One main thing I want to make sure you guys understand from a tennis perspective, once we introduce blended lines, it messes up our relationship with the USTA. So in order to do USTA sanctioned matches, you cannot have blended lines.
oh,
So it's one of the things like we get Millbrook, like you have 23 courts at Millbrook. That's used for both collegiate, it's used for high school, it's used for USTA ladder and league level play.
oh, snap.
So when we're considering that blended lines conversation, we have to take into our relationship with other organizations. And again, I'll echo Stephen in the fact that we don't want to displace pickleball and tennis both grew very, very fast again during COVID. So we're trying to satisfy both those needs. Thanks for letting me interrupt.
Wow, and I don't play either of those sports.
There's also indoor opportunities. So if you go to Lake Lynn,
We can create up to 32 indoor courts between anything from Lake Lynn to Barwell Road. Chavis, we've actually worked.
no, go get
We
it.
started, when we now line our gyms, we have volleyball, we have basketball, we have pickleball. So we are now lining our courts when we build our new gyms. We're establishing those lines as part of our new construction. Or, to Stephen's point, when we go back and refinish that with, when we resand our hardwood floors, we'll establish those lines at that time.
Okay, that's cool. Like I said, I don't play either one. People just tag me on Twitter with questions.
You
Let
don't
us know.
play
We will
yet.
always help
You
you
might be.
I do have one more that your presence just reminded me of, so don't go far, actually. Had a play date recently, and my friend Abby, something about going to the pools, and there was like limitations on when they could access certain pools, and granted, I confess, I've never even been to one of our public pools because my neighborhood has one. But so that makes me wonder, because Abby said she couldn't go whenever she wanted to. I don't know. How is our staffing going with the pools this year?
Don't want to say it out loud.
Oh, I thought I applauded you.
Everybody
I don't believe so. It's all things considered. For as much fun as I had last year with lifeguards, it's the 180 degrees the other way. So we opened all of our pools Memorial Day weekend. We've stayed open. Now, the unfortunate thing, just so that if you guys don't know, we had a pretty significant issue at Buffalo Road Aquatic Center, which it is down because we have a leak in the pressure line that we're working to get figured out. It's going to require removal of the pool deck in order to get there. So we've dealt with some questions of conspiracy theorists and what's going on there, but it's really just as the fact that we had an issue and unfortunately it shut it down. So we're trying to work through that, but it's pretty complex. Aside from that, all 4 seasonal pools are open, running very well. To your question about access, we do early in the morning. We'll reserve some of those spaces for lap time. And then we'll have recreational pool time. Just go to the website. All of that information should be accurate, whether you want to go to Longview or Pullen, when you want to do things and how you can do there. But
Abby goes to Optimist.
Yep. So Optimist, there's a couple different things that we've got going on there. So we've got our lap lanes that we're doing. We're dealing with a lot of camps that come in there. And then we have what's called Dive Well, which years ago, for those who've been around for a day or two, know we used to have diving boards out at the location in Optimist. So just if they're not sure, go to the website. If not, you can call
She
and
said she
Ronnie
calls.
Banks. If not, you can give her my number. And I'll be happy to help that.
All right, that's all. Those are the questions that have literally all come to me in the past just 1 month.
So I just wanted to draw everybody's attention to the African American Cultural Festival, which will be Labor Day weekend, the 2nd and the 3rd. We'd love for you to come out and support local businesses and infuse monies into local economy. And specifically on Sunday, my beautiful wife will be performing maybe 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. at the African American Cultural Festival.
Where? No, but where is that?
It's on the Fayetteville Mall.
Oh, okay. Well, I think
City of
Nightdale
Raleigh
has their
event.
own, so I saw
It's the
Nightdale.
City of Raleigh.
Very, very cool. She's a cyclist and a singer.
Very cool.
Grammy nominated.
Whoa. Dang. You got to keep your game up, man. All right.
Beverly, I did find my notes from the June 27th Bicycle Pedestrian
good.
Advisory
Yes.
Commission. I had to look deep. Much of the discussion was concern for pedestrian safety. I think the entire city is feeling this, and we have programs like Vision Zero, which are developing, but to look closer in from all the boards and commissions and from anybody who has some ideas that can help reduce the horrible accidents that have been occurring. So they looked at traffic calming, design, things that would help, better lighting at some intersections and some whatever. Carol?
Is this for bicyclist car collisions or for bicyclists running down pedestrians?
No, my comments
It's
here
about
are based on
pedestrians.
pedestrians
And
being hit by vehicles.
Thank you.
And we've had maybe some of what you're looking at, but I wasn't thinking of that. But trying to deconflict the situation that exists with so many pedestrians having been hit and horribly maimed or killed, trying to come up with ways in the city that we can do some things close in and near. And of course, that does fall within the BPAC realm. It touches us with our greenways and interlacing with that. Individual safety on greenways is also important. So I think we're going to see some of these issues. Maybe if we don't originate them here, council will be bringing them to us to have looking at such things. So that was the concentration of their meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Giovanna's looking at me. She's got something else.
I have a couple of things. In your follow-up items for tomorrow, I will include information on 2 open house public meetings, open house style public meetings that will occur in August 16th from 4:30 to 6:30. August 16th from 4:30 to 6:30 at Barwell Road Community Center for 2 neighborhood and community connection projects. This will be for the Battle Ridge community and the Neuse River Trail. And then the other one is August 23rd, same time, 4:30 to 6:30 at Worthdale Park. And so this one is regarding the Crabtree Creek Trail to Carl Sandburg Court and the future Sunnybrook Park. Also, we are still in need of 4 participants, 4 board members to represent 3 different boards or 3 different CAG groups. So we still need 1 representative for Biltmore Hills Tennis. We need 2 for the Neuse River Park because one of the members will not be able to participate who signed up. And also Strickland and Leesville Road Park.
Neuse River is CAG. The others are just participate in the open
Right.
houses and come back and give board feedback. But the CAGs for Neuse River, very important volunteers we need.
Yeah.
And we need 2.
Well, you will put all this in an email to us tomorrow, and we can respond to you. That sounds great. Thank you, Giovanna, for all you do to keep us informed and on the straight and narrow.
And we'll see who all can participate next Thursday at the board social.
Right.
We'll miss you. That's all.
Okay. All right. I think that is everything unless somebody raises their hand now. Boy, it's a record. We're out of here at 8 o'clock. So thanks to everyone. I will call this meeting adjourned.